welcome back to the TK Show. Today, we're going to be talking about
The economy.
the U.S. economy. We're going to talk about investing, and yeah, let's get right into it. I guess I know you got some questions prepared for me, so
Yes,
you get started
sir.
off.
Okay, so as a certified newbie at the economy,
Mm-hmm.
not really sure of what's happening within the economy. I think that's my first question. What exactly is happening currently with the economy? What's the status looking like?
It's a great question. When it comes to like the stock market or just like the U.S. economy as a whole, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. I'm sure a lot of you guys, especially if you're an adult, if you're invested in the stock market, if you're invested in metals, you guys know gold was raging. It was at all-time highs just a few months ago, and a lot of people were excited. Even though the stock market, the U.S. dollar, wasn't doing too hot, a lot of people who were invested in gold and metals like silver, for example, were still very happy with the overall status because they were making money. But over this last month and a half, 2 months, a lot has changed. Gold and silver has come down. The stock market is in a weird spot. As a lot of you know, AI tech companies were doing incredibly well.
Mm.
Nvidia, for example, Microsoft, so on and so forth, were doing incredibly well. It was a bull market. All stocks were running up. Over the past 2, 3 months now, everything slowed down.
Mm.
Um, a lot of these large cap companies worth billions, trillions of dollars were very overvalued, meaning that companies in general, just to give you a brief overview, Lenny's,
Yeah.
companies are valued based on how much they're making, and based on the industry, there's a multiplier that they put.
Okay.
Of course, as a company grows hype and builds a brand for themselves, Tesla is a great example with Elon Musk. Even though the multiplier on their earnings, it's not true. They typically get multiplied
Oh.
significantly higher because a lot of retail investors like ourselves will get excited about the brand, excited about what's coming up.
Yeah.
And for example, just say Tesla. If the industry average is a 10x, just say the company is making $1 billion,
Yeah.
the company should be valued $10 billion. For a company like Tesla, it's getting valued 100 times.
Oh, damn.
So what that means really is when you're buying a share of the company, you're
Yeah.
buying something that's very overvalued. And
Uh,
what we're currently seeing right now in the market is all these overvalued stocks. A lot of stocks that had hype, Palantir, Tesla, Microsoft, they all were very, very overhyped. And now it's coming down. The stock prices are dropping significantly and it's coming down to its true value.
true.
Um, but yeah, that was a high level recap of what's going on in the stock market and the US
Okay.
economy.
Wow. Okay, a lot of stuff
A
going
lot of
on.
information
A
there.
lot of information there. Um, Clearly for me, some abrupt changes happening overall.
Yep.
I just want to know, have these changes been as a result of just naturally happening as the stock market continues to evolve, or is this circumstances that are influencing it?
Okay, so that's a really, really good question. There's definitely some external factors that are influencing what's going on with the US economy, with the stock market. But typically, at a high level, there's two types of markets there's a bull market and there's a bear market. Bull market is when prices continuously go up, bear market is when prices are pulling down or going lower. In either case, both are always true. If there's a bull market, eventually there will be a bear market. If there's a bear market, eventually there will be a bull market. When it comes to why is it a bear market right now, why are prices going down, so on and so forth. One of the key factors, for example, is AI spending. As you guys know, AI is everywhere, but currently there's a lot of these large companies spending billions of dollars on building infrastructure for AI. And for retail investors, one of the concerns is this spend going to actually make the company as much money as they're spending currently? The companies themselves, of course, think that this is what they need to be spending money on. This is the current trend. They want to be the first to get there. So they're spending billions, if not hundreds of billions, to get that done. Um, but as investors, spending that much money without actually getting earnings for the company is concerning. And that's why one of the key factors is that prices are going down. Another one was For example, why was gold and silver prices surging to all-time highs? As the US dollar was weakening, there was concerns, right? Should you keep your money in the stock market? What should you be doing? And precious metals typically rises when there's concerns with the US dollar or in the stock market in general.
Okay. Wow. Okay. With all that information
I
being
know,
thrown,
yeah, okay.
how's the rest of the year looking like? I'm not sure if you know. If not, maybe you can even predict. But like based off current statistics and all those factors, how's the rest of 2026 looking like?
Okay, so really, really good question. Of course, it's hard to predict. No one can really predict what's going to
Yeah.
happen next week, next month, next
Yeah.
year. One thing I will say is someone who's in the stock market, who's actively investing, there's companies that you know will eventually do well. For example, Nvidia, someone who benefits from all the spend, the AI spend. Um, for example, Meta, which has been actually beaten down significantly over the last 3 months. These companies are companies that consistently do well month after month. Microsoft as well, by the way. So these are companies where, as an investor, it's actually still a great idea to continue investing in these companies, especially as their valuation comes down. If you're not concerned with holding the stock for a year's time, 2 years' time, because like I mentioned, if there's a bull market, there's a bear market. If there's a bear market, eventually there will be a bull market.
All right. Okay. So
So I
sorry.
have a question for you.
Okay.
I know, of course, you haven't started investing yet. You're kind of
Yes.
learning more about it, but eventually you're going to get to the age where you're going to be exploring the stock market. You're going to be exploring investment and different
Absolutely. Yeah.
opportunities as you get a full-time job, as you have a stable income too. What questions do you have or concerns do you have when it comes to investing long term?
Okay. So yeah, fantastic question. Actually, my question was going to be related to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask, as a 16-year-old boy, and other 16-year-olds and teens out there,
Yep.
what's the best way to invest? How do we start investing? Should we jump into cryptocurrencies or index funds? What should we go into?
Okay, so incredible question. Um, Especially at the start, what I would always suggest is doing your research. Everyone has different investing styles. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, it's very high risk. As you know, we
Yeah.
always talk about this behind the scenes. Cryptocurrencies are extremely volatile. There's very high highs, very low lows. For example, right now is a great example. Bitcoin is has pullen down significantly. Currently trading in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, while all-time highs 6 months ago was around 120,000. So that kind of shows you that cryptocurrencies is a great investment because as long as you can hold and you have confidence that whatever cryptocurrency you're holding is going to rise back up, there's a lot of growth potential if you're buying at the right time. But
Okay.
there's also very, very high risk. If you're not looking to be risky or experience very, very fast growth, you can always invest in, for example, VOO or the SPY. These kind of reflect the top 500 companies in the stock market. So you don't have to buy each individual company. If you're investing into something like that, you're going to experience growth over time without having to stress about individual stocks.
Okay. All right. So my final question.
Yes.
So you did a really good job, getting me to um sorry, let me repeat that. So you got me to understand the best way to invest. Now I'm gonna essentially speak this teenager term, okay?
Yep.
Because I know many teenagers are looking at the stock market, looking at the economy, and saying, I want to make some good money out of that.
Yep.
So I know you talked about how we can make it slow, but let's say, how could we make it as fast as we could, even though we know there's high risk cryptocurrencies and other sorts of exchanges out there? What's the best way we can make money fast and simple?
Really good question. To that point, I would say there's no easy way to make quick money
That's truth.
or fast money overnight.
Yeah.
To correct myself, I've had days where I've made 500% in the stock market within minutes. Yes, that is quick money, but it's very, very high risk. You could also lose every single dollar that you're putting into the stock market. And that's called options trading. That's basically, there's something called options trading where you're either buying a call contract or a put contract. And a call contract just says that you expect the price to get to a certain point, which is at a higher amount. Puts are saying that you're betting that the price is going to go lower. The great thing about these contracts is exactly what you said. You can make very, very high amounts of money in a very, very short period of time. However, you could lose every single dollar that you're putting into that within a matter of seconds, minutes, hours. So I do not, once again, suggest that to all the teens. I was definitely there when I was exploring ways to get into the stock market. Especially as a young individual, you're only thinking about how fast can I make hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, but you're not thinking about long term. And if you're someone like that and needs to kind of break into the stock market, especially when you hit 16, 18 years old, the first thing I would say is open a TFSA, a tax-free savings account, especially if you're in Toronto, by the way. If you're in the US, it's going to be something different. But yes, I think you would open a TFSA and start buying something like where you don't have to stare at your phone and see
Okay.
how it's doing every single minute of the day, because that is very stressful.
Yeah.
And as a teenager or as a young adult, that's not your biggest concern. You're going to have a job, you're going to be in university. So you want to be able to have a peace of mind, whether it's a really good market or a very poor market. And to that, I would suggest always buying something that covers the entire market, slowly investing into it over time.
Okay, perfect. So my final question
Yes.
involved in investing once again. So I'll tell you my personal plan and you let me know how it is, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so essentially, a long term plan, I believe, is doing an 70 to 30 or 80 to 20 method where 70 to 80% of it will go into index fund,
Okay.
whereas the other 20 to 30% will go into cryptocurrencies that's either Bitcoin or other sorts of cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm.
And long term, do you think this plan would actually work or should we look into alternative methods?
Incredible question. I guess question right back to you before I answer that. I know behind the scenes, behind this video, Darnis and I always talk about investing, growing our capital, growing assets over time. Um, and you've always shown an interest in cryptocurrencies. So I guess my question to you is, what piqued your interest in cryptocurrencies, and why would you actually want to allocate 20 to 30% in crypto?
Okay, so
And there's no wrong or right answer, by the way.
yeah. So I'm gonna probably relate to a lot of my fellow brothers and sisters out there. But that cryptocurrency, it's so, volatile and high risk that one day you can check and all of a sudden it's significantly higher than it was the previous day or the previous week. So I enjoy that high risk and I know that cryptocurrency long term, it seems like it's always going up. Yeah, it's crashing. It may even crash for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I, actually have the patience for it, maybe if I do wait it, by the time 10, 20 years later, it would have gone up from compared to 20 years ago.
Okay, so really, really great question. With cryptocurrency and allocating your portfolio 20 to 30%, like you mentioned, as long as you can understand that it is high risk, high reward, and that 20 to 30%, you should be able to understand that you can lose that from your portfolio.
Mm.
You are correct, though. There's, of course, very, very high reward allocated to that as well. For example, Bitcoin. It is very cyclical, and it's clearly seen with
Yeah.
Bitcoin, for example, that, 1 year it could be at all-time highs, another year it could be at all-time lows. Not all-time lows, sorry, higher lows. So to your question, is that a good strategy or would I recommend that? I would be very cautious of recommending investing in cryptocurrency long term. The reason why I say that is because with crypto, one of my biggest concerns and why I don't invest in cryptocurrency is the actual utilization of the token. For example, Bitcoin, yes, countries are starting to buy it. For example, El Salvador buys Bitcoin I believe, every single month or every single day, and they invest in it heavily. But there isn't currently a clear use case for Bitcoin. It's not like gold, for example, where you
Okay.
can go and sell something physical and get your money. Yes,
Okay.
you can sell it, of course, on the crypto exchanges, but there isn't a clear use case behind Bitcoin, for example. And it's very interesting. A lot of people buy Bitcoin or cryptos to leverage themselves or protect themselves when the US stock market goes down or the US dollar weakens. What's very interesting to see, for example, this time around, where the stock market is weakening, but also Bitcoin as well. So you're not really covering yourself or protecting yourself. You're still experiencing a significant impact either way. Um, but yes, if you are someone who is interested in cryptocurrencies and are okay with having some risk in your portfolio, I think it's fine to invest in, like, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, those two top cryptocurrencies. But the biggest thing I would want to highlight is you have to take a DCA approach. Do you know what DCA stands for?
Not sure.
DCA stands for dollar cost average. For example, Bitcoin. If I gave you 100,000 tomorrow, I wouldn't actually want you to just buy one Bitcoin right away. I'd want you to slowly allocate capital into buying Bitcoins throughout months. And the reason why I say
Okay.
that is exactly what you mentioned earlier, Denise. Cryptocurrencies are very volatile. They could go up very quickly, they could go down very quickly. But for example, with Bitcoin investing, the clear winners end up being people who DCA, dollar cost average, into their position over time. But yeah, guys, that's a wrap
That's all.
to stock talk or US economy talk. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put that in the comment section below
Yeah.
and let us know your thoughts. If you're someone who's around Denise's age, are you guys exploring investing? Are you guys thinking about it for your future? It doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't have to be from a year from now. But is that something you are looking into? I think it's so important, especially at a young age. What I found, which is really interesting, and I'm sure you feel the same way to a certain extent, is they don't teach that in school. They
Mm.
don't teach it in high school. They don't really teach it in university. Something that you have to actually get into, or your family, your friends have to
Yeah.
kind of give you some sort of context, or else it's not
Absolutely.
something you actively look into.
Yeah.
For me, it was really just doing my own research. No real close family was doing it. And then when I started talking to my close friends about it, they were actively investing as well, or they started investing around the same time I did. But let us know, guys, in the comments, whether you're my age or around my age in the 20s, 30s. Are you guys invested? What are you guys invested in? What does your portfolio look like? Do you guys have cryptocurrencies? Um, or do you guys stay away from cryptos like I do? Let us know in the comments. I was gonna say conversations, but comments below. And guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to
Like and
comment and
subscribe.